Rugby, though. Now that's a game,
rugby.
man.
Next on MLR Weekly, Lucas Rumball, the captain of the now-defunct Toronto Arrows, his fellow countryman, Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News with more on that, and John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning with Major League Rugby moves, trades, and whatnot. Rugby Wrap-Ups MLR Weekly brought to you by Sheehy Auto Stores. It's easy at Sheehy. The Pig and Whistle, New York City, the world's best rugby pub. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. To MLR Weekly, Matt McCarthy in New York City. Thanks for joining us once again. It's a bit somber around here with the news of the Toronto Arrows not participating in Major League Rugby 2024, but we plod on, and we hope that we hope the best for all the players. And we're obviously going to be talking a lot about the Arrows in this show. We have Lucas Rumball, the captain, who epitomizes the heart and soul of that organization, if you will. We also have Bryan Ray, who's a Canadian and diehard Toronto Arrows fan living in Nova Scotia. But before we get to any of that, and there's a lot, and it's all good, we have our excellent recurring segment, Rugby Mornings Coffee Break with John Fitzpatrick down in the nation's capital, the United States capital, not Canada's capital or any other country's capital, but the goddamn America's capital. John, how are you? Welcome. What do you got for us?
Hey, Matt, I'm doing great. Did you get a haircut or something? You look fantastic.
Thank you.
But hey, Matt,
thank you.
You're welcome. I think
it's the Arrows blue that makes my eyes pop.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Toronto Arrows situation, and I know you and Bryan Ray are going to get into it later in the episode with more insight and analysis. But Matt, for MLR fans out there worried about the 2024 season, should we be concerned about any other MLR clubs not making it in 2024?
Well, first off, let me address that you have no idea what Bryan and I are going to get into, and stop trying to direct the show and produce it. As far as other teams not making it in Major League Rugby in 2024, joining the Arrows as a defunct organization, it depends on who you listen to. I happen to think that we're going to have 12 teams, but I also thought we were going to have 13 teams. Next!
All right, Matt, let's move on. That's got me a little bit concerned. But anyway, moving on to a little bit of some happy trails, perhaps. But shout out to Nate Breakley. He played his last official game with the men's Eagles in a win over Spain. And he's officially retired from Rugby New York. And Matt, I got to think there's still some tread left on those tires for Nate. What do you think?
There's plenty of tread left on the tires. I just think that maybe he's tired of those tires being treaded. But let's look at this logically. Didn't we have a certain player that was going back to Wisconsin that then unretired? Remember that one?
I do.
Tell the people who we're talking about.
That would be Ben Landry.
That's right. Ben Landry is now back playing. Nate's moving back to his native area of Boston, and he is retired until he starts living family life on a daily basis. And what's the over-under on him being with the Free Jacks? Because he's also a Dartmouth guy, and the Dartmouth cabal controls the Free Jacks. I say he's a Free Jack by May 15th. Next!
The only catch is he's American, he's not Canadian, so New England wouldn't sign him.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Good point. Next!
Hey, moving on. How about Kurt Baker, the New Zealand Sevens legend? He was in a coaching player role for Old Glory DC last season. Old Glory has announced that he's moved on to a full-time head coaching role for Old Glory DC in 2024. What do you think of that, Matt?
I think the same thing I think about Nate Breakley. I think we're going to see him on the pitch. He's another Matthew Drew Turner is Kurt Baker. And I bet you a baker's dozen that he suits up this year for Old Glory. Next!
Well, I bet you a beer next time I see you at the Pig and Whistle that he doesn't play.
You mean the world's best rugby pub?
Only at the Pig and Whistle.
All right, well, if you come up to my town, then the beers are on you. Next!
Doesn't work like that. Hey, so let's move on to some re-signings. How about Christian Dyermaker? That's right, he is. Yeah, I stole that joke from you first because you stole my joke last week. but he has re-signed with the Houston Sabercats, so he's returning in 2024. But Matt, interesting note about Christian here. He's going to be running his very first marathon, the Dallas Marathon, on December 10th. I don't see you running marathons.
No, you don't. I don't run away from my problems. I confront them. Next!
All righty. Well, Glory DC is confronting some problems in the front row, maybe. Trying to make a segue. But they have re-signed young prop Cali Martinez. You may recall that he was the 3rd overall pick in the 2022 MLR Collegiate Draft. He's coming back to Old Glory for the 2024 season.
So they're going back to Cali. Next!
How about the Dallas Jackals? They have re-signed Canadian international hooker Evolve Koitzer. He's coming back for the 2024 MLR season.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to see some more Canadian players and some international players coming down from the Toronto organization. And it'll be interesting to see how the league sorts this with the dispersal draft and all that jazz. But the one thing, there is compassion in the executive offices of the MLR. And literally, this plug was pulled like Wednesday. So that's not a lot of turnaround time, and they're trying to mitigate as much angst as possible, but there's a lot of angst to go around. What else you got?
Last thing here, this weekend, the HSBC 7 series, they dropped the E's for some reason. I guess they don't like vowels.
Okay, guys, I don't know how to say this, but this is not just another brand refresh, okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We screw the pooch on this one. We're sucking nothing but sauerkraut here.
But the series returns. Dubai, the first stop. The USA men's and women's sevens team. You can catch the action on Peacock. But there are 3 MLR players who will be playing this weekend. 2 of them are 2023 MLR Collegiate Draft picks, Oren Bizer and Will Chevalier, including Lance Williams. I know he left Utah, but I'm sure we'll see him back in MLR sometime soon. But those 3 will be suiting up for USA as they hit the pitch in Dubai.
Well, like Antoine Dupont and Michael Hooper, Lance is chasing an Olympic dream, right? So these players will get back into the 15s programs, but they're taking a shot, a one-time chance. And also, I'd like to salute Madison Hughes and Ben Pinkelman back with the sevens. We all thought that Ben's career was over because of injury, and that leads me right back to Nate Brakely playing for the Free Jacks this season. Next!
Matt, last thing I want to close out on is, January 22nd is coming up real soon. That's going to be the official start of MLR preseason. I'm sure we'll see some season schedules coming out here real soon, but I'm sure you and Bryan have so much to talk about later in this episode.
Again, you don't know what we're going to be talking about. You are not involved in the production meetings, and you can stop directing the program. On that note, I want to thank Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning with his coffee break, another exceptional segment on this program. Thank you, John. We'll be right back with Mr. Lucas Rumball, the captain of the former Arrows, the now broken Arrows of Toronto, after this.
Digs like a demented mole there.
Need a great price on a new vehicle? Sheehy makes it easy. Easy Price shows you our lowest prices on the Mid-Atlantic's largest selection. Find your best price online or at any of our 31 dealerships.
It's easy at Sheehy. Sheehy.com.
You need your cleats? You need them tomorrow? If you order today by 3 p.m. New York time or noon LA time, they can have them to you tomorrow. Young, old, male, female, if you're playing on turf, if you're playing on grass, if you're playing in the rain, you're playing in the heat, they've got you covered. RugbyNow.com. Go there now. And we're back with one of my favorite people on the planet, especially in Major League Rugby, and currently not technically in Major League Rugby. I guess he is. Mr. Lucas Rumball of the now defunct Toronto Arrows. Lucas, welcome, my friend.
Thanks for having me. I wish I was here on better terms, but always happy to be on.
And I wish I wasn't on this virtually with you. I wish I was there to give you a hug and give you an ugh and my thoughts. It's just what a week, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely wasn't on the old radar or the bingo card for the month of November. So a little bit of a shock, and I guess it's time to roll with the punches and see where things go.
I just wanted to walk through some of the last 48 hours with you. Whirlwind. I think, did you say you got engaged this weekend?
I did. So I took a quick vacation out of Spain to Scotland for, better weather. And decided that, 8 years was long enough of dating, and got the knee dirty and dropped down on the Saturday there. And thankfully she said yes.
Wow.
So I've, I'm probably gleaming about that. That's a real positive mark in my life right now. So it's keeping me smiling. But unfortunately, a day later, as rugby is, you don't get to be in the spotlight too much. Apologies to my new missus, but the team basically folded. So been kind of trying to pick up those pieces in the meantime, but still buzzing off that engagement for sure.
Well, congratulations, first and foremost. And we were talking a little bit off camera about relocating possibilities, right? And there are some that are better than others, but you said that she likely wouldn't be traveling with you. And, for folks at home, they're like, oh, you guys have been together a while and you survived Atlanta without her.
Yes. Right? Yeah. It was, that was a tough one. You didn't make sense. She works as a physio here in Vancouver. She just opened up her business the start of kind of last year. And she's doing well and is thriving. So to uproot her and, have her move down, it just doesn't make sense. I come back to Van whenever I can. And, it works for us. That Atlanta year, if she would have come down with, all the protocols and things like that, it would have been a month and a bit of time she would have had to do in quarantine. So it just didn't make sense.
All right. So she's a physio and she's got familiarity with rugby players, correct?
Very much correct. Yeah. She keeps me going. She does treat some of the boys in the league, Ben Lesage for one, when they're here in Vancouver. So she does keep some of the guys moving throughout the year.
Well, I know that Miami was looking for a physio, and they've got grass and warm weather, Lucas. Hint, hint.
Now, I'm more of a cold weather, snow, sleet kind of guy. So,
well, obviously, if you go from Spain to Glasgow for a vacation to propose, you are definitely you're. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, but
I'm just way more in my element in the cold. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that true Canadian blood running through me.
You even got an Ontario coffee cup. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy is the real article, and this is what kills me about this franchise going down. You have been right there. You've been the captain. You've been Mr. Breakdown. You and Breakdown Breakley here in New York. You're not going to have this thing. You don't have that rivalry going anymore. Who's at the most breakdowns, right? Because he's announced his retirement, so it's all for you. Now you just need a goddamn team.
Yeah, that's going to be, the next bit, I guess, in the next few weeks of my life is kind of figuring out what to do and where to go. I'm gutted for the organization, and the fans and the younger kids and kind of that surrounding aspect of it. You can feel bad for some of the older players and stuff, but we should land on our feet. We have a resume and things that can propel us forward. But if you're a younger guy in the league, if you're, a fan of a team that's now gone, if you're front office staff, like, those are dream jobs and kind of dreams that just poof gone into thin air. So it's, for me, as much as it's gutting for myself, I'm really feeling for the fans, the younger guys, the front office staff in the next week. I'm just gutted for them.
People now are like asking why and how and everything else. Well, when you break it down, it comes down to cancer, and it comes down to Bill Webb getting cancer. He was the owner who passed away from cancer. And it was his passion that got this team going and kept them going and was going to keep them going, but he got ill. And, you weigh real life things against, this is a game, this is a sport, it's a sports franchise, and a family lost their husband, father, brother, what have you, to cancer. And that really started this thing. But let's get back to the now. How did you find out?
The GM, Tim Matthews, gave me a ring on the Sunday there and just informed me of things going forward. And then we had a players meeting on the Monday night with some people from the league and our manager and GM as well, and just informed the boys at the situation. I think, candidly, I think they wanted a little more time to do things properly. And I think the news leaked out into a couple different circles and was starting to spread like wildfire in social media. So unfortunately, that was the way it was handled. But yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow no matter how it comes out.
All right, so you're in a good place. You have a good resume, a very, very solid resume in Major League Rugby already. You're still young enough where you can get up and go. Perhaps maybe a little bit difficulty with the new fiance, but it may be an exciting new chapter where you get to explore a different place. And did you have any inkling this was going to happen before the call from Tim?
No clue. I was just, we just wrapped up Canada tour a week earlier, and I was just, wrapping my head around switching that mindset to the MLR and what we can do in the next bit to get the boys right for the season and what needs to be done off the field, on the field, all those things. So it was a major shock to me.
Can't you go to Ryan Reynolds' house and have him intervene and buy the team?
It's I've seen a few comments about asking Ryan Reynolds for some help.
Where are you, Ryan?
I just watched the documentary for the Wrexham team. I'm feeling like he should be right in here, but unfortunately, I think I lost his number somewhere, so I won't be able to contact him.
You got to hit him up on Twitter or X, right? X. Yeah,
I hit him up on X. Maybe I'll slide into his DM, see what happens.
It hasn't been a banner year for Rugby Canada either, and you got to go to Spain. Tell us about Spain.
I think it ended on a good note for us. I thought we had a better performance in the second game against Brazil. I was just really gutted after that first performance. It didn't show who we were, and I don't think it demonstrated how much work is being put in by the guys. We spoke, we're not in crisis mode, but after that Spain game and the loss, we were kind of looking for answers, really trying to figure out what needs to work for us and how do we switch the mindset. So I think you need that positive winning mindset. I think we've, been in kind of a downtrodden losing mind in the past, 3-4 years. So I think for us, it's about changing that mindset and bringing in a winning culture and how you do that. If someone had the answer to that, they'd be probably the best coach in the world and have no problem finding a job. But it's not easy. And I think we took a right step in that second game, but it's now a huge break until Canada's next test. So how do we build off that, without getting together until next summer, really?
Listen, again, I wish I was there to give you a big hug, and I really appreciate you manning up and coming on. I know it's tough circumstances, but you've never been one to shy away from anything. And folks, this is a guy that would be a leader in your clubhouse and on the pitch, gets to the breakdown, doesn't mind the cold weather, needs a direct flight for Vancouver if you can handle it. Final thoughts, Lucas, before I let you go.
Yeah, I think for me, I'll just throw it out to the fans and everyone kind of in the Toronto sphere. It's going to be a gutting month and a bit, probably a gutting start to the year, but just get behind rugby wherever you are. The Arrows might not be around for this year, but, your local club's still around, your local high school. Follow your favorite player wherever they go to an MLR team, support that club. I think don't just get rid of your support and don't fall behind rugby. Try and rally around you and build the sport up in your area, because you saw what Bill did and how much sacrifice and how much he put into that team. And if we can just take a little bit of that feeling and that drive and put it into our own areas, I think it would go a long way to promoting the sport and growing it in the country here and in the States as well.
All right, Mr. Lucas Rumball, I'm looking forward to seeing you ramble some more on the pitch. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Appreciate it, as always. Thanks for having me.
Be right back with Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, who is also from Canada and is not going to be as nice as Lucas was just now. We'll be right back.
I wouldn't like to be at the bottom of that.
If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street.
This is the Rugby Odds, where an unlikely pundit panel of a wordsmith, a WWE legend, a rugby star, and a supermodel scour the globe, seeking best bets and bad behavior. Are you not entertained? back to the show fully, let's take a brief look at the New York Sevens tournament, the spectacular tournament put on every Saturday after Thanksgiving by the New York Rugby Club, the coolest rugby club in the United States. And you'll recall Webb Ellis played in his only Sevens tournament way back in 1847, and that tournament was the New York Sevens tournament. And it's always a fun tournament, but now it's rife with current or future or former MLR stars, including the likes of a Demonte Noble. Let's take a look. Demonte! Nothing. And we're back. And we're back with Mr. Bryan Ray, diehard Toronto Arrows fan, living in Canada, Nova Scotia, and he's got stormy, dark skies above him. Bryan Ray, welcome to MLR Weekly.
Well, some more stunning news. I have to say, this was not expected to me anyways at all. I've heard some, comments here and there on social media saying that, well, could have seen this coming. I got to be honest, I was a heck of a lot more optimistic than those people. It's my understanding that up until last week that there were new backers kind of in place, at least verbally agreed, and it seemed like everything was a go. I mean, they just announced a new signing, new coach pretty recently. This was not all done, with it wasn't like they signed all these people thinking, oh my goodness, we're not going to have the money to pay for them. Everybody thought this was a go, from my understanding. And just end of last week, the main backer pulled out. I don't have a name. I haven't spoken to Tim Matthews, the GM. I know he will be absolutely devastated. And knowing Tim far more for his staff and his players and the Webb family than anyone else. So, all you can really say is this is a real heartbreaker for Toronto, for the organization, for Canadian rugby. And I think MLR should be really sad as well. I think it'll be lesser, to have not just the Arrows, but any Canadian team at all to go into a season without one. We've had one before, but, for the last 5 years, we've had a Canadian entry. So I think it's very sad.
So Rugby Canada, nobody else could rally and maybe try to get some kind of deal where they got some kind of loan from the league. Nothing, huh? I mean, I think it blindsided the owners too, the other owners of Major League Rugby.
I think so too. I think, well, first of all, to rule out Rugby Canada, understand they have no money. They can't afford to pay the staff that they have now. So there was no hope of that ever happening.
Right? And they can call people that they know have money that are rugby people. I mean, Bill Webb wasn't the only the passionate guy in rugby in Canada that had some money.
That's true, but we don't know exactly how much needed to be covered here, how much they were suddenly short, and let's be honest, the runway is real short. You can say, well, the season's not scheduled till March, but you've got to all of a sudden get these guys new teams pretty much in the next 3 weeks, if not less, because you've got to arrange accommodations for these guys if they're moving to different teams, and you've got to, the schedule needs to come out, all that kind of stuff. I just think they ran out of room, and they were left with no option. Now, whether the other owners could have opted to kind of prop this team, as we saw before with Atlanta, that's another discussion. That's the one that they're going to have to answer. I thought they might do that. I thought, again, without knowing how much needed to be covered here, maybe that was the issue. Maybe it's just their owners decided, hey, let's just step back and see what we can do later with this franchise. This is the best move for now. I don't know. You'd have to ask them. But that to me seemed the only option to keep them alive as of when I first heard that, this was a likelihood. Very early on Monday morning.
Well, you saw Lucas Rumball on the show just before we brought you on, and now he's thinking of the next chapter, and we can use that as a springboard to pick your brain on players and where they might end up.
I mean, you've got to imagine at this stage of the game, most of the recruiting, 95% of the recruiting for all teams is pretty much done. There might be a couple teams out there who are a little bit lower than that, but
listen, the attrition rate with an expanded cap, teams are going to hop at players.
Yeah. So, and Lucas Rumball, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to have that guy making a mess of the breakdown?
You hear that, Balfour in Seattle?
Seattle Seawolves, another Canadian flanker. I don't see why not. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, where it goes. I just hope everything works out and these players all get new teams and we still get to see them in MLR.
And again, I keep going back to this, but professional sports, when they're starting up throughout history, are rife with teams fading, folding, moving. And at the end of the day, if all goes well for the rest of this week, at least, and the schedule comes out, we will have 12 teams. And we started with 7.
When we got the horrendous news that Bill had died in August, Bill Webb, and obviously there was immediate concern, but I just thought that, maybe there was just enough in the tank there to get them through this difficult stretch, to get them through one season, and then they could work on something and figure it out. But it appears it just wasn't there. This blow isn't just losing an MLR team. They had an academy set up. They were really, building connections with the community. This was the one kind of shining light, even though it was, crappy season results last year. We still had this professional team in Toronto, to look forward to. They would really look like they were going to show some improvements this year, new coach, some new players. And
I'm going to go back to what I said to Lucas. Where the hell's Ryan Reynolds?
Where is Ryan Reynolds?
Where the hell
Seriously.
is Ryan Reynolds? Where the hell are you?
It's a nasty game. That is a mean game.
And you played that.
Rugby we played, yeah. You tape your ears on because someone wants to take them off.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the sick stuff, man.
Yeah.
Deadpool 5? How about Toronto Arrows? On that note, Brian, I wish I was there to give you a hug. As I said to Lucas, I want to give all the Toronto Arrows fans a hug. Well done, and hopefully a team will rise there again. And who knows? We might be able to get something back up in Toronto. It's a good place. It's a good market. And if they keep pushing the start of the season back, you won't have to start with 8 games on the road.
I really think there will be a team in Toronto again sooner than later, but it's just going to be probably a couple of years at least to kind of see where everything falls and how things go. I definitely see multiple teams, Canadian teams in MLR, because I just think that the MLR is lesser without them. So eventually we'll get there, and North American rugby will continue to rise. MLR will keep going, and those are just some tough days for Canadian fans.
So I was going to say the Toronto Phoenix, but how about the Toronto Resurrection? Huh? On that note, I want to thank Mr. Bryan Ray of America's Rugby News, who we got smiling at least at the end of this program, Mr. John Fitzpatrick of Rugby Morning, and Mr. Lucas Rumball, the former captain of the team that used to be called the Toronto Arrows, and we're going to miss them. And thank you for tuning in. Please check out our other shows, including the critically acclaimed The Rugby Odds, the College Rugby Wrap-Up. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube, sign up for our weekly newsletter, and please join our American Red Cross Blood Donor team.